next time. I'm supposed to have the theme song. I'll have it next time. I love the theme song. I don't know. Anyway. Alright, so this one's about Santa Claus. We're going to try and keep it allegorical. Now, I was thinking about looking into the history of Santa Claus, but it's not essential for this point. What I want really to think about is the concept of Santa Claus and the social device that is Santa Claus. As allegory. Alright, so what is Santa Claus? Santa Claus is to the children that believe in him, a manifestation of good that rewards children most especially in response to their good behavior. Now, because the children have no direct way to really communicate with Santa Claus or develop an awareness of his ethic and the morality that he expects from these children, they are forced to develop an awareness of, their essential spiritual leader through the parents, because they have no means of discovering the ethics Santa Claus would like them to live. So then, the parents, from their perspective, Santa Claus represents their behavioral expectations for their children incarnate. In that, rather than... essentially what we have here is the notion of good being co-opted by an authority figure, in this case parents, as a means to align good with their agenda. And in the case of parents to their children, you can argue that that's not inherently flawed. However, what ends up happening is that the primacy of Santa Claus's loyalty to Santa Claus becomes paramount versus the installation of positive ethic, because there will be, and as our culture progresses more and more into a sort of narcissistic and transactional MO, sort of integrityless, hypocritical soup of BS, it'll become worse and worse. But essentially, once you start to have a hypocrisy in Santa Claus's ethic, right? When Santa Claus wants the child to do something that is clearly unethical because essentially the parents do, then the primacy of loyalty becomes the message, right? And that's becoming more and more the message. And so if we imagine Santa Claus being applied to everybody, right? If we imagine everyone believes in Santa Claus, and not just that Santa Claus will deliver these great rewards based on 1 year of good behavior, but this Santa Claus takes all behavior and makes a determination as to whether you get eternal bliss or eternal misery. And so, because we cannot directly talk or communicate with this Santa Claus, we are forced to depend on other sources to establish this Santa Claus's ethic, just like the children. But because this power will, by default, corrupt most men, and because that corruption becomes a motivator, it is unlikely that this Santa Claus will not be exploited to a far higher degree when he is given that degree of authority and is assumed to that degree to be the incarnation of good, while simultaneously only serving as a bolster and a support and an advantage to the individuals that wield supposed connection with this Santa Claus. Because there is no direct way to determine the ethic, the message instead becomes that loyalty is supreme, because that is what is key in developing desirable behavior from the standpoint of the authority. But now if the authority aren't parents, but instead are nefarious global political and business actors that are wielding a Santa Claus and espousing that loyalty to that Santa Claus is more important than anything else, well, I think these are bad parents. We need to acknowledge that there ain't no Santa Claus if you don't see that you're being exploited in the same way. And now, this isn't even a statement on atheism versus theism. You can be agnostic. You could believe in Jesus, be a Christian, and you don't have to be dogmatic. You could believe in an afterlife and not believe in a God. You could believe in a God and not choose to praise him. You could believe in an ethic that was non-anthropomorphic. I guess the point is Christianity is about an ethic. It's not about a magical thing in the sky. If it were about a magical thing in the sky, maybe we'd have more encounters with magical things in the sky. If we were supposed to trust the magical thing in the sky, wouldn't the magical thing in the sky talk to us? So my point is, the whole thing is about the ethic. There is no inherent magic, but if we all cooperate, if we have the faith in one another the size of a mustard seed, we can quite literally move mountains. Oh, it's not an allegory. That one is quite literal. Like, we have amazing potential, but we need to start acknowledging that the potential is within us. It's not within them. It is within us, and it is not for someone else. It is not to be controlled by someone else. It is not to be controlled by something that is in the ether and happens after you die. Do you not realize that the greatest multi-level marketing scheme ever would be a scheme that sells you something that you get after you die? Especially one that promotes evangelization as a critical element to getting that thing, and then has all these excuses why you might not, and then develops a bunch of means to pay your way in if you screw up. I mean, that's not an objective ethical framework. It's not it's not real. It's an exploitation, clearly. Think about it. All these children believe Santa Claus is real. So that should help you understand how easy it would be to make millions of adults believe something like Santa Claus was real, especially when it's advantageous to the powerful. Who is going to be your source? You know, all of your sources have a conflict of interest. Every source that you have has a conflict of interest. Just try and get one that doesn't. Me, I have no conflict of interest. Seriously, my only goal is to realize a more just and equitable society in line with the very vision of Jesus. Seriously. No. Not a hint of irony there, although I find it kind of funny because of how much I am quite literally demonized by Christians, though, no joke, all the times I read the Bible, I was very inspired by the ethic, because it's an inspiring ethic. But if you're going to believe that's the cosmological truth, please research it. And if you research it adequately, we'll be meeting again.